Hello, and thanks for joining us for lesson 18 of 21 for 21. My name is Jamie Coles, and I'm, as ever, joined by Stuart Levy. Stuart, how are we doing?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Jamie. So I know we don't need to listen. These podcast episodes aren't so time specific, but just to give our listeners a bit of context, my team, Nottingham Forest, 2 days ago beat Jamie's team, Leicester City, 4-1 in the FA Cup fourth round. So
I knew you were going to bring it up. I was sort of wondering, like, maybe we could just get on with the episode and not reference it too much. But
I mean, we're 18 episodes in. We got to have a bit of a bit of banter.
Well, okay. Now you've got that out there. Maybe we could just put it behind us and move on. Draw a line in the sand, and I hope you do well in the next round.
Very, very, very gracious, Jamie.
Exciting today to join us, and then maybe worth mentioning we're across a couple of different time zones today, because we're joined by Mithil Jaysen, who works for JSW Sports in India. He's in Bangalore right now, and we're excited to have him on today just to kind of find out the state of sport media in a different country or somewhere that's, I think in Europe and in kind of the Western Europe, particularly, we've got a good idea of how things are. And I have to admit, going into this episode today, and Stuart and I had a bit of a chat yesterday as well ahead of recording, I have no idea about kind of the state of sport media. And I have some idea about sport in India, but sport media, no idea at all. So first and foremost, Mithil, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Thank you so much, Jamie. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me on this episode. Funnily, when I just saw the invite, actually 18 is my lucky number as well. So happy to be on the 18th episode as well.
Happy days. So I'm quite excited to find out a lot about, today's topic of sport media in India, which I know of India as sort of an emerging market. And quite often, European clubs, European sports talk about India as one of those emerging markets, the rise of mobile phones and internet connections and ways of consuming digital media. But before we get into it too deep, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and talk to us a little bit about what it is that you do?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, for me, the kind of experience with sport and marketing thereof was something that was always there within me. Wanted to explore, but I think I mean the scenario that you say in India is a very different scenario compared to how Western kind of the side of the world is, where you look at sport very recreationally, grassroots, as something which is very much more developed, like you've seen. But I mean, not taking away anything from this side, but I think the opportunities were limited to kind of want to study sport or wanted to work into sport, because the legacy that and the kind of trend that was there during my early days was always into either you are a professional athlete or you're a child of a professional athlete, and and that legacy was something that a lot of people would work into sport because if you had a background of those sorts. So I think for me it was something that I'm just a recreational sport player. I mean that's I love my footy once in a while. I like getting out and playing any kind of sport. Like I have no limits of what, how, and when. So I think that was the reason where wanted to study and get into the helm of studying sports management and changing how sport is looked at and is in this side of India. So that was my thought, and I think playing a lot of kind of sport in school, sport in college, basketball and football were two sports that I kind of played a lot. So I think UK and Europe was the place that I wanted to be in and study, because I think the sport in Europe is more relatable to this side of India, because the sports like cricket or football was something more relatable for somebody who wanted to study sports management. But if you look at sports in the US or I mean the different helmets things, it's more about ice hockey, baseball, basketball, which was the difference, like of how the connection and working in the sport was. So that was my journey. long story short, but kind of went to study sport in Newcastle, sports management. I was in Newcastle studying sports management, so it was a long trip across the globe to get to Newcastle. But I think it was where I did my undergraduation at Northumbria, and I think that changed a lot, staying in the town with the Geordies and the passion that the Newcastle United club had. Because I think during my time was the championship days, where we played a little of European football, but Europa League. But I think that was where all the passion that got into me kind of helped me change and mold into getting more into sport. And that was very much at the beginning. So today, where I am is 8 years down the lane, working for JSW Sports. So it's the JSW Group. So I work in the sports division called JSW Sports. Handle the sports marketing arm and the talent side of it. So I think we've had a fair amount of successful Olympics this time. I mean, compared to the from where we lie as a country, and I think that is where the legacy of where we want to take forward with corporate India and public sector all coming together to improve the sporting culture in the country. So that's the vision of the entire the company as well.
Yes, it sounds like you've had almost living the dream, going from India, where there's maybe perhaps not the developed sport business culture, to all of a sudden being right in the heart of Geordie land in Newcastle. So you mentioned at the start there's a bit of nepotism where you have to know somebody to get into sports marketing. So with the decision to go to Northumbria because of the reputation of the UK, or because you're struggling to break into that Indian market?
Well, I wouldn't bring the element, I think, of nepotism, because I think the element was more about the culture around you. Like, I mean, you're seeing everybody in your mentorship, in your mentor circle or your friend circle, and everybody around you is either played professional sport or not made it to professional sport, or kind of had their own bits of barriers around it. So I think the element was everybody, even studying a business management degree or doing an arts degree, could still get into sport, but then they were not making it up in the top 3, top 4 organizations around here, like the Board of Cricket Control or any of the organizations that kind of survive. So I think it was important to get experience. This is back in 2010, 12. But it's definitely changed now. If you ask me the same question now, a lot has changed the way sport is treated and the sports job opportunities that have been there in recent times. So that's an evolution that's happened over my time of getting into sport and working with sport at the moment.
So what are the big sports, both from in terms of being played, but also in terms of like being consumed on TV or online? What are the big sports out there in India right now?
So, I mean, to answer that, I think it's a global recognition that we've got of the sport of cricket. I think that the legacy, and I think the very element of cricket is also because we've got a successful role models, success in the sport, and I think that has brought the legacy of sport. So different levels of grassroots, different levels of people's entertaining element, like the IPL, has helped grow the entire sport of cricket in India. So it's like, if you don't know a prominent legend in the cricketing side of things, you're looked at differently, in a club, like, or a pub, like. But I think it's important element to it's an important kind of perspective with cricket. And I think now, as of the last 3 years, ever since kind of the IPL has come and the growth of leagues have happened, now we've got a Kabaddi League, which is a sport of Kabaddi. I'm sure you've not heard of that sport, because it's something which has got agility, it's got quick movements. It's an exciting sport, but it's just something which has grown into the format of leagues, similar to how probably the American way of creating leagues in every element and doing the sponsorship branding side of things is something which has grown a lot of sports in India as of late, apart from cricket.
So talking about the growth in India, so that sport you mentioned, Kalibi?
Kabaddi.
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 Kabaddi, so we
It's
need to do a
it
separate episode
is
on
it
that.
like is it kind of like wrestling and tag? Am I right in thinking it's kind of?
Absolutely.
I have seen it. I have seen it. It's amazing to
Absolutely.
watch.
Yes, yes. It's amazing to play as well. It's gotten into a beat sport now, but it's a really interesting game to play as well. You should try it sometime.
So, what challenges do you think would be involved in exporting that? So, if there were to be a world league or even a Pan Asian games of Kabaddi, would that is that social media infrastructure there to create TikToks that would go viral or Twitch streams of the sport, or what is its development in terms of professionalization in that way?
So, I mean, to answer you, Stuart, I think, I mean, even from an Indian perspective, I mean, looking at sports like football, which is a global sport, looking at volleyball as a sport, basketball, for example, kabaddi is blown out of proportion is also because of, like you said, the element of broadcasting, the element of social interaction. I think it's the relevance of the game to a user. So and all of these perspectives coming together, I think Kabaddi as a sport got an element of support from a broadcasting, which is one of the top broadcasters in the country. So it was marketed well. It was social. The media side of things was connected. So when you had, for example, a TV show which is non-sport, there was Kabaddi was marketed there as well. Whenever there was anything entertainment side or fashion or any other industry, this sport was marketed in a way that would bring consumers from different sides of different industries to this to watch. And surprisingly, over time, with the growth of how the IPL structure has been like a base model to it, it's used a lot of themes with sponsorships, with bringing the Bollywood industry, which is another industry, getting all the cricketers into the sport. So the influence of different industries into the sport of kabaddi has helped it grow in India. So I think globally as well, I mean, I can see people trying the sport, making it a beat sport, making it more recreational, and teaching the basics of the game. I'm sure many don't know the rules of cricket, but that's how, and it's just 12 countries kind of playing the game globally as well. But I mean, at least in the World Cup and thing compared to a sport of football, which should have grown. But I think IPL and Kabaddi has been that the Ronaldos and the Messis of cricket are playing in India, you know. So, and I think that's what's helped the sport grow much better because of that. So, and I think football as a sport will grow when we have when some prominent players like, I mean, from the Premier League and thing which have that stature that can grow in India. And I think that's where we can have a global sport like football as well grow over time.
So, okay, really interesting. IPL cricket is Indian Premier League, right? Cricket.
Correct.
So, I was quite shocked to find that some of the biggest social media accounts in the world, up there next to Manchester United and Real Madrid and New York Giants, are some Indian Premier League cricket teams. And I think, is it Chennai is one of the big teams? Am I right in thinking?
Royal Challengers Bangalore, yeah, RCB.
Okay. Yeah, Chennai.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Chennai Super Kings is one of the biggest, I think. But yeah, and
Correct,
so I had no idea that
correct.
they existed, let alone had such important Instagram accounts. So before we kind of go down into their success, I'd like to know what the kind of the state of social media and sport media is like in India. Obviously, Instagram is a big one, but what else is there, and how are you watching these sports?
Right. So I mean, just giving you a little bit of a background as well. So I think the entire element of I mean, the teams that were created, I mean, has always been a reflection of the captain or the prominent player in the team. So if you look at like you said, Chennai Super Kings, you have Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who is one of the most successful captains from Indian cricket. So you've got Virat Kohli, who is I mean, the currently ex-captain, but one of the most the top cricket batsmen in the world. So I think, and that he's from Royal Challengers Bangalore, and you have Rohit Sharma, who is another prominent cricketer in the Indian space, who is also from Mumbai Indians. So the three top teams, which have got following, which is at least in the range of 10, 12 million followers, is because of these prominent athletes. Like if you see, compare a Mahendra Singh Dhoni, who's got at least, or a Virat Kohli, who's got 182 million followers on Instagram, and you see Royal Challengers Bangalore has 9.2, odd followers on Instagram. So you see the reflection of everybody who's a Virat Kohli fan will follow a Royal Challengers Instagram page as well. So reflection of fan following and of course success of the team. So we're talking about these three teams because it's pretty much been a victory between Mumbai Indians and Chennai Super Kings over time. So each of them have won more than 4 or 5 titles kind of over the period of time compared to the other teams. So that sprung up into prominence, giving them that fan following and giving them, and I mean, India being the second highest population always has its advantages as well. So if you have to compare it on a global scale, getting 60,000 people to a cricket stadium is quite an easy task, but it wouldn't be the same for St. James Park, for example. That's what we noticed, because we as sports management students would get us filling up stadiums during championship days. So I think that shift in paradigm was something where, being such a massive audience and population also helps in filling up the stadiums and getting engagement rates of so high on Instagram and as well.
Great. I mean, this has been a really interesting start, an interesting dive at first into the world of Indian sport, but as we know, sports media, we all work in the industry. It means we sometimes have to dash off. So, Jamie, thanks for your time this afternoon.
I have to duck out, I'm afraid. I really don't want to. It's fascinating, and you explaining it so well. So I will leave you and Stuart to finish the episode, and I look forward to catching up later.
Absolutely. Cool. Thanks so much, Jamie.
So, thanks, Jamie. We won't talk too much about Sunday. Don't worry. Still. Just following up on what we said. So with all these huge numbers of followers that the cricketing franchises are getting based on the teams, but how are they building a fan base? Tickets really cheap to get into the stadium, or are there still huge disparities in price points?
So there is always this influx, because we've got a varied population as well with regard to kind of consumer incomes as well. So there is different sections of the stadium which is always entertaining different thing, and then themes of fan parks which are all across the city, which the kind of audience that cannot entertain be able to make it to the stadium have either screenings at bars and places where they all get together. So I think that theme was there before, but the pandemic has definitely changed a lot. It's definitely seen a lot of things and digital activations coming into picture. So a few things, like I think from an IPL perspective, and I think is become virtual interaction. So a lot of now brands and partners of different teams have started to get into virtual interactions where you get to meet a team, you have fan parks, that is broadcasted on a live match. So you have a team of screens where the fans are all celebrating at the stadium. So you can immediately see a fan reaction on a broadcasting channel, and despite the fan being on a digital Zoom call or a Microsoft meeting. So lot of digital side of activations that have happened, and this is always, I think, a theme where they've always kind of helped get engagements. I think that's something where every team, every marketing manager has always tried to see how we can get more people from tier 2, tier 3 cities in India to also engage them and make them fans of teams. So I think that's something which is not like, being such a vast country, the fans of the south of India cannot just have predominant fans in the south of India. It needs, and it's all the actionables and the deliverables that they're there. So the brands would be reached out to have brands which are from north of India, for example. So how to bring a fan following, and that's why I think something like Chennai Super Kings, you mentioned about as well, has been able to do this very well as well, and having dominant players from the Indian cricket team, national cricket team, and their activations and thing has helped fans support the clubs that they play for at the IPL.
Yeah. So would you still see it's a case of people are supporting the players rather than the team? Because we've spoken a lot about when Ronaldo went to Man United, Juventus lost a lot of social media followers, and Manchester United gained a lot. Would that be the same if a star player were to move teams within the IPL?
It definitely would be a slower process than the Ronaldo. Probably seeing the way he changed the dynamics of the league in Italy and then changed the dynamics to different sides. But I think it would be a slow process, and surprisingly, but this weekend on the 12th and 13th is the massive auction. So every team is going to be revamped. But just to give you an example, Stuart, you mentioned about fan following. This time at the IPL, we have completely two new teams. So Lucknow and Ahmedabad are two new teams going to be added to the IPL structure. So they have zero followings. They have absolutely zero. They started their pages, Facebook, Instagram, as of a couple of months ago. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how somebody who just started their pages thing, but the sponsorship costs, the broadcasting, all of these points are as leveled as the bigger teams as well. So it's not like they would start from a lower price point for a sponsor association or for a digital activation. They base themselves as big as the other prominent, like other teams across the league. So to give you an example, that's going to be an interesting aspect of how these two teams, starting from a digital world that we're getting into, on how they accumulate fan following, getting prominent players, or just digital marketing strategies they're going to up now.
Yeah, no, that certainly is very interesting, because you're right, even though the IPL, it's 2007 it started, is that right? Or around about then? So just about before the huge rise of Facebook, for example. But now these two teams starting now, maybe they aren't even going to prioritize Facebook. Maybe they'll first prioritize TikTok, because that's more for the younger generation. But just to step it back slightly for some of our listeners, this draft, it's more of an American concept rather than a European concept. So can you briefly explain how that will work? If they need to, where are they getting the players from? Are they getting the players from international superstars or from the youth teams, or is there a second division where they can get players from? How does that part of it work?
So I mean, just to simplify the entire process, basically that every team gets to retain certain number of international players and certain number of Indian players, and everybody's got a purse, a certain amount of kind of a wallet that they can be able to spend. So most of the players, for example, have been able to retain certain players, like the Delhi Capitals has retained Rishabh Pant, Prithvi Shaw, most of the prominent prodigies which are upcoming in the Indian ranks, and prominent. So Rishabh Pant being the captain. So every team has maintained to keep their captain who they want to look at. So before the auction, every team has a set amount of players that they decide that they want to keep as a captain, or as a bowler, or any high demand player, and that immediately gets deducted out of their total money that they are going to spend at the auction. And now, when getting into the auction, every team kind of has to assemble their entire squad and make sure that they've got the right balance of players subjected to COVID norms. Now that's a new thing, because every team has got to make sure that they have enough number of players. If you have, I mean, despite them having the virus, or how things are going to go up in the future. So all of these are going to be important elements. Players Now we've just had an interesting under-19 World Cup. In the finals as well. So now it's going to be about how the under-19 players are going to shift. So the last 2 years hasn't had a lot of domestic cricket. So the local grassroots level cricket has all been kind of cancelled because of the way of the pandemics and the lockdown. So it's going to be an interesting one for all teams now, looking to balance their teams and look at and growing their teams forward, because it's important to have age balance to see how the young ones can mold into looking up at the mentors, as well as the older ones if there are injuries and every element of how they're going to balance out the team, because it's a 2-month league, so you got to make sure that you have the right balance. And cricket as a sport, like as well, it's not dominated by the coach. It's everything that the captain derives and creates a balance on the hierarchy of the playing 11 and everyone as well. So all of these elements are going to matter, and this is across every sport. So every sport has had the team, like you said about the draft, the American system. So you have the team in the Kabaddi, the new sport that we've learned today, and across all these other sports as well, it's the same system that's kind of followed to kind of create. But I would compare it to the American way, because even from a sponsorship branding element or a marketing element, everything is very themed on similar lines as well.
So again, you mentioned the IPL season running for just 2 months, which obviously I understand, because then the players are going to the Big Bash in Australia or the T20 in England, or playing for their countries. So then what happens in India? So those sponsors, they put a lot of money in for just 2 months of visibility for the IPL. So what do Indian sports fans watch for the rest of the year? Do they watch the national cricket team, or is that all the other sports competing for the eyeballs of the fans in the other 10 months of the year?
Right. So right. Yeah. So just to answer you, so it is that it's themed in such a way. So ever since kind of the 2000 bringing now, what's happened is that the IPL is always important months where if you see, it's summer holidays for a lot of schools, colleges. So that's an important. It's the start of a new financial year. So that's where the brands come in, all the marketing budgets come in. So now I think that March, April, May is when everybody is getting into the IPL mode. Every brand is looking to spend in the IPL, because I think from a branding perspective, brand awareness, a lot of brands get increased proportion of awareness to the IPL, increased amount of recognition, increased amount of consumer perspective. So the IPL as of last year's bit has been crossed over 500 odd million viewership. This is just broadcasting, and then you have 250 odd million followers, which is on digital platforms. So you're talking about that much of a 800 900 million viewers on your broadcasting and digital, and then you have offline as well. So that's the strength of how the reach has been. And once that gets over, then you have July, August, where you have the kind of Indian series, or you have domestic series happening where different tours. As soon as you get into November, you have the Indian Super League, which is the football league in India. So that runs for a period of 6 months. So from November, you have it going all the way till March. Then you have, December is where the Kabaddi League starts. And then between all of these, you have different other leagues also happening. So before the pandemic and the kind of revenue kind of factors, financial rather, that brought a lot of leagues to kind of take a break and kind of revamp their entire bio bubble elements and financial outcomes, is where we had leagues in table tennis, badminton, tennis, all of these kind of, because of the financial models that were not effective and couldn't live up to the kind of stake that it was because of a lot of players not traveling. All of these elements kind of has just put them on hold. On hold rather, but now I think going forward, hoping that we are the whole pandemic and everything is behind us, and we know how to function in a bio bubble environment. Everybody is vaccinated. All the fans can start getting into the helm of engaging with most live sport. So I think that's the hope of how an optimistic future is supposed to be with going forward. So I think in India now it's become. I think not just India, globally as well. Live sport is just become news, and live TV, rather live television has become news and sports. Like that's the only way people have started to watch live things. Like everything else is either OTT or on. Correct. Everything is on social media. Everything is saying so. That's a new age thing where live is only being watched on these kind of stages. So it's just going to be innovative to see how we innovate the entire digital aspect of it. Of course, like you said, the short video element that you said. So TikTok is banned, by the way, in India. So we've got So it's a funny government regulation, but that's happened. So that's brought in a lot of other apps as well. So correct. So it's ShareChat and more, and a lot of different global products have kind of come to India now to replace the entire TikTok model. So these are talking different languages, talking different to different age groups, to different audiences. Everything is happening differently with these short video apps. And personally, nobody has. Being in the sports marketing sphere is just so hard to consume so much of content. Live content is so hard because a football game is a fairly 90-minute game, and then you immediately have a live sport immediately after that. So like you said rightly, I think it's become a very I don't know how it's going to drive us through, but just it's going to be an important change to see how people are now. Are they going to come back to stadiums? Are they comfortable with that, or are they going to be comfortable with having a pint and having the good food that they've done during the entire pandemic as well? So that change, I think, is going to see. The year of 22 is going to be a lot of changes that we're going to see on how people's behavior has been before the pandemic and after the pandemic now.
So in terms of your current role, so you're working for JSW Sports, who are one of the owners of Delhi Capitals. So regarding marketing, so are you marketing regarding, is your job trying to sell tickets to the stadiums, or is your job trying to get more sponsors, or what's your particular role?
Yeah. So I'm a sales guy. I think that's something which ever since studying sports management, for me, I think one element of what I like the most with sports management was sales. So ever since I've gotten into the sales aspect, and I think I think that was something which was a very niche, which a lot of people do not like sales. So getting from a sports management degree to India, there's operations, there's marketing. So for me, sales was an element. So I've just grown into a sales role. So with JSW Sports as well, I oversee the commercial partnerships and marketing as a sales and marketing that goes side by side. So with Delhi Capitals, like you asked me the question earlier. So in November, we handled Bengaluru FC, which was one of our football clubs, which is also an asset of the JSW Group. Then came Haryana Steelers, which is our Kabaddi element, and then we look at a calendar getting into March, which is the IPL and Delhi Capitals. So me and the whole team we look at sponsorship branding, we look at marketing elements, we look through. They've got a different element. I'm working from the central team, so there is a team looking at on-ground activations. There's a team there's different teams looking at different elements. So for us, it's about getting the best brands, the best kind of most prominent, the values, and of course, it's a team, it's a revenue. So you got to make your revenues and grow as well. So I think all these elements is something that you got to make sure that if you're getting a brand, it's a long-term association where the brand kind of gets its objectives through associating with the team. It should not be that it's a short term and they're not getting the best out of it. So we, as commercial partners, make sure that we get a brand on board. They're there, they're getting their objectives addressed through the IPL, and that becomes a longer term. So there's a lot of brands that have been there with kind of teams for a long period of time, and that gives a lot of legacy and recognition for brands. So I think that's an important element all IPL teams and especially Delhi Capitals is looking to achieve. So we're 4 years old as a team. So we had a rebranding back in 2018. Before that, it was called Delhi Daredevils. So ever since the JSW Group got into the picture, the whole rebranding happened, and it was a merger with another entity. So that's where we're just 4 years old into the IPL. So that's going to be that. Hence the answering the social media elements. Someone like a Chennai Kings, Super Kings, and all have had a lot of kind of time and period over it. So that's the whole dynamics of the entire league and structure as well.
Okay, so in terms of the Delhi Capitals, this might be an opinion, or I know it's something you're involved in, but do you feel that most of the IPL franchises are run in a similar way, or are there ones that are well run off the fit pitch and ones that are badly run and are in financial trouble? How sort of stable are these franchises?
Right. So there is a difference. It also depends on the management, the ownership, the kind of the people working for the entire bid. So a lot of dynamics, a lot of parameters are there. So and a lot of kind of the people force that is there, like evolving every day as well. So I think there is a lot of elements. It's very regional centric, to be honest. Like because someone like a Mumbai or a Delhi or a Bangalore. These are metro cities that have kind of come into picture. So there's a lot of other teams also that have gotten their teams now. For example, Lucknow and Ahmedabad are coming from different areas of the country. So some might be like Mumbai is a financial capital of the country. So if you see a lot of brands, a lot of prominent players from the Sunil Gavaskar and such, and like a lot of Indian prominent players have all come from the ranks of Mumbai as a city. So and it's recognized globally. So a lot of global brands want to associate with a city like Mumbai and associate with a recognized city. So there's a lot of dynamics involved in that. And of course, taking that forward, it's about how a team like Hyderabad or a team a new team like Ahmedabad will create a sporting culture in the country. So how can they create training academies, or how can they create local activations in the city? So everybody in the city should be a fan of the team. That's the objective. So how the strategies of every team to reach these objectives, how marketing is going to be. All of that is something which I think every team has their own strategies. So the ones that have been able to do it well, and the ones that have had successes on field, like Chennai Super Kings, have had a title spree of multiple titles, and they're also the defending champions now. So I think that has also helped them bring a lot of fan following to their teams from all over the country. So I think all these elements and strategies help a team's revenues, financials, marketing, and the entire global outlook of how they grow as a brand and more than just a team.
So it actually sounds like the IPL franchises are trying to get really involved with their community and into the lives of everyone in their city or their region. So is there much space even for foreign sports? I mean, we've mentioned football and the Indian Super League in football, but does Western leagues like the Premier League or La Liga get watched a lot in India, or are they still sort of niche interest?
No, No, absolutely, absolutely. So, I mean, European sport, especially a lot, because I think the likes of the Manchester United or the Barcelonas of the world from the leagues that have grown in Europe is something I think all of us have grown. Like, I mean, there's nobody who would not know about these prominent top five clubs of most of the European leagues. That's something which it's a know-how. You got to know the Beckhams and prominent players of the world. Like that's comes out of a general knowledge aspect to a lot of kids and a lot of people around as well. So that influence has definitely happened. I think even till day, if you're looking for a Saturday night game with a bunch of mates, you are going to be watching a Premier League game, or you're going to be, if I mean, depending on the time of the day, but the broadcasters have made sure that the games are played, at least the prominent games are played at the right time slot in the evening so that the viewership is high as well. And I mean, not taking away anything from the Premier League, but I think the Premier League has done a great job across in India because you will see I mean, prominent fans wanting to support. You will see an Arsenal fan and a Chelsea fan even fighting in the streets of Bangalore or Bombay, because even after the game, like, I mean, you and Jamie were fighting as well. I think that's the banter which
That sort of
happens.
fan culture has been nurtured, yeah.
Correct. Even though it's a city across the world, it's just a city where and it's a football club from another city, another country. But I think the culture, like you said, it's something which is ingrained into them so much that there would be fights even between me and my friends at one point in college and think that we would not like to see a 9-1 between a Manchester United and Arsenal. That wouldn't be something that would go 8-1 would go well with our friends after the game. So all of that is something which is ingrained a lot, and I think a lot of people, football is, I personally feel it is the most commonly played sport in the country. It is something that is played a lot more because of its accessibility and things, but I think it's just because of the kind of the entertainment aspect and a lot of factors with how it's positioned in India is why the game is not grown as much as it should have been in the country, and that's where I think cricket got its pie of the cake, and I think it's not had its success. I mean, the national team will eventually grow into somewhere, probably at least at the Asian level, then grow into somewhere in a global recognition. I think all these smaller elements are important to create a legacy. So the national team currently might probably create a legacy for the future. So that's where the government.
As you said, yeah, it's the second biggest country in the world. So eventually, you're going to get 11 good football players at the same time to totally qualify for a World Cup.
No, absolutely. It's the most you have to play these games. I mean that's where the sports of volleyball and everything, which is globally is also being brought into the country. So these are things which I think needs a lot of success, a lot of role models, a lot of support, and I think that brings the culture of a sport and growth in the country as well.
Good. So Mithil, it's been really nice getting to know you and a nice meeting you, and maybe we'll have to have you on again when Jamie can stay for the whole hour next time. So as we said at the start, the theme of the podcast is 21 lessons for sport media in the 21st century. So what would be your lesson going forward, either from your own career or about the sports industry that you've noticed? What can you share with the listeners?
So yeah, I mean, I think personally, I feel a lesson for personally that I can relate to, and like the story I've mentioned about how I've kind of grown into my role, and I would like to grow furthermore into my future is just the skill of upskilling. I mean, just everybody, it's just so important to upskill yourself. Like we spoke about so much about the digital age that we're getting into. It's just everybody. It's not like you have a degree in sports management that you can live with for the rest of your life. Like you got to keep upskilling yourself with the latest trends that are happening in sports science, development, or even if it is education. Every element of skills need to be developed over time. And I think if all of us kind of get into the rhythm, especially this pandemic has taught us such a massive lesson, like about if you're not ready to change with time, you're going to be laid back into a lot of things. And I think the skill sets that I have got, for example, grown into with sales, not taught in a lot of unis or kind of programs, but it's just important to talk to people. And today, I kind of learned a lot from this today as well, where it's important to just get into just upskilling yourself with just get out of your comfort zone. And I think that would be a lesson I'd like to kind of share as to a lot of people watching us today as well.
I'd certainly like to agree with that, because the reason why I'm here, and what Jamie's here as well, creating this podcast, is to upskills. This podcast is preempting your lesson, and it is a lesson for me in sports marketing, getting to know different people, practicing my communication and my networking skills. So it's been fantastic to add another person to my network. So Mithil, thanks very much for your time. Do you have any social media accounts that you'd like to advertise to our listeners to join you?
No, I mean, I'm there. I'm just very prominent as Mithil Jaysen. I've just got myself as a sports guy on LinkedIn, so happy to help anybody looking to get to know more, wanting to get into more about the sports industry. Always happy to get on a quick chat. Thank you for having me here today. Also, we'll get around that message as well. But lovely. I think this has been a great experience, and hopefully we can do a lot more of this. And I'll probably teach you the game of kabaddi as well, if you can see you soon in India
kabaddi,
as
well. Other lessons, so upskill and also get into kabaddi. So Mithil, thanks so much for your time. Thanks everybody for listening, and remember to like, subscribe, and share so more people can enjoy 21 for 21. Thanks a lot.